Battle of the Carolinas, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. This is going to be a good one now. This is probably the biggest game of the Saturday slate. College game day is going to be there. Neutral site in Charlotte. You got North Carolina favored by 2.5 over South Carolina. And South Carolina, man, this is a big identity year for them under Shane Beamer. Like, I've talked about them being one of those powder keg teams. They've had some momentum on the recruiting trail before. And I think it's all about deciding, okay, what are we going to be in the Beamer era? We've sort of overachieved when it comes to expectations preseason the last couple of years. They're no longer like that good story. They're no longer we'll see what South Carolina is when they go line it up. Oh, that's nice they beat Tennessee. Oh, that's nice they beat Clemson. Like, people are taking South Carolina for real this year, and Shane Beamer doesn't want it any other way. What are they going to be this year? A lot of talk about the defense. It's a talking point, without a doubt. If they go out and beat one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Drake Maye, how are we perceiving North Carolina this year? How are we perceiving South Carolina this year, rather? That's a big piece of it. Confidence statement for South Carolina should they win this game. Now, going to North Carolina, the internal feel, I would imagine, is they're being overlooked. A lot of talk about Clemson. A lot of talk about Florida State. You want to get talked about? You want to thrust yourself into that conference title conversation? Go beat the team who just took down the ACC champion from a season ago. That's right. South Carolina went and beat Clemson at their house. And if you take down South Carolina, what does that say about North Carolina? I understand it's different years, different teams, but you feel confident about where you are with Drake Maye. You're not getting him another year. Make a statement and put some fuel into that program before you leave if you're Drake Maye. And I'm excited to watch this one. This will be a whole lot of fun. The number one question in this game that we all have, what does the defense do for both teams? We alluded to it a little bit here for South Carolina, but neither team played great defense last year. Both allowed around 30 points a game. And the reason why this is important is, does this become a game of possessions or does it become a game of stops? Now, if it's a game of possessions, that means like, hey, we just need as many bullets as possible to go win drives. Like it's going to be a matter of whoever has the ball last, that's probably who's going to win the football game. I'm talking like we're upper 40s here if it's that kind of game. So if that's the case, I think you give a slight edge to North Carolina. Now, it doesn't have to be this way, but the reason why I say that is I'm still unsure what we're going to get from Spencer Rattler. Finished the year incredibly strong, white hot. Probably a big reason why he came back to go and build off of what he did last year. New offensive coordinator now, a lot being said about him being in better position now with Dow Loggins and being a more streamlined direction for their game plan. But even so, 12 interceptions last year. A lot of those came during the first part of the year. Are we seeing Spencer Rattler kind of turn over a new leaf? Or is it going to be a situation where you have a couple plays where he makes great plays, makes great throws, tons of ability, but you have that moment where you're driving at the end of the first half and he throws it to North Carolina and you're like, man, what are we doing there? We're leaving points on the field. That can't be the case. I'm curious to see what happens, but if it's a game of possessions, I think that may favor North Carolina because of what I just mentioned, and then Drake Maye is the lowest drama player in college football. And I say low drama in the sense that you know what you're getting from him every single Saturday. If North Carolina loses any of these football games, the rest of their schedule, it will not be because of Drake Maye. I think it'll be because of the defense. So that kind of leads me to the next part of this question. If it becomes a game of stops, then that means the defenses for either side are forcing some points. And so I think that favors South Carolina because of the approach they're going to have offensively. We talked about it in our big factors video we put out yesterday for this exact matchup. South Carolina doesn't want to spread it out and throw it around the yard and go air raid. Like, they want to run the football. Now, that's going to be a bigger task for them based on what they didn't do last year, but I think Juju McDowell was set to have a pretty good year for them. Kerryon Joyner also going to be a guy that carries the mail for them. What does that look like? We'll see. But if they can run the football effectively, that means they get to hold the ball longer, which is important because guess who's not touching the rock? Drake Maye. So I said this yesterday. The best defense for South Carolina may be running the football and keeping that offense on the field. Say, Drake Maye, we appreciate you being here, but you're going to have to watch a fair amount of this one, brother. Again, that starts with getting stops, but if they can do that, that would be, I think, a perfect world for South Carolina to live in because it limits the possessions for Drake Maye. Now, here's the subplot, and we always got to talk about this anytime we're talking about a game with Shane Beamer. What's going on with special teams? What's going on with special teams, man? Because Kai Kroger was 4 for 4 with 2 touchdowns last year. If you're unfamiliar with the name Kai Kroger, he's the punter for South Carolina. There are a lot of backup quarterbacks that didn't throw 4 passes last season, let alone 2 touchdowns, and Kai Kroger did both, completed all of them. So just keep an eye on that. It wouldn't be surprising at all if we see him show off the cannon for an arm a little bit in this game and they spice it up in week 1. The other part, though, Shane Beamer, he really prioritizes special teams. In week 1, across college football, I promise you we're going to see special teams errors and big plays. And a big special team play in some way, I mean, someone made an error. And the reason why, it's impossible to rep full speed special teams as much as you need to be ready for a football game. People say it's 1/3 of the game. It's not really, because you don't have 1/3 of the plays on special teams during a college football game or during any football game. But even so, you can't rep 11-on-11 kickoff. You know why? Because guys get hurt. You say we could either have guys get hurt or get better at kickoff. What are we going to do there? Right? You kind of see what I'm saying. So who's able to make the fewest errors on special teams is going to be important. I also want to get ahead of this here. This is not going to be a quarterback duel. Because quarterback duel implies that whoever has the better stat line in this game, whether it's Drake Maye or Spencer Rattler, then that side wins the football game. I'm telling you right now, Drake Maye, I feel pretty confident saying this, will have a better stat line than Spencer Rattler. But the reason why I'm actually leaning towards South Carolina here, spoiler alert, I think South Carolina wins this football game because everything for North Carolina starts and ends with Drake Maye. And that is a lot of pressure. I love Drake Maye. I think he's one of the best players in college football. Probably the best quarterback in college football, not named Caleb Williams. But he doesn't play defense. He doesn't play defense, and I think for South Carolina, there are more ways for them to win this football game. North Carolina, in my mind, has one, and that is Drake Maye goes off, just kind of says, I'm him, carries North Carolina through in this game. Could happen. Would not surprise me if it happened. But if I'm putting a bet on this one, I'm leaning towards South Carolina because it could be a thing where the defense improves. They say we're tired of being talked about. They made some moves in the portal too down there in Columbia. Some of those pieces maybe step up. We'll see. Maybe the run game steps up. Spencer Rattler doesn't turn the ball over. They can play game control. There's more avenues for South Carolina to win this football game than for North Carolina. So for that reason, I'm taking South Carolina to play a surprisingly version of clean football offensively with Dow Loggins not running the show. Spencer Rattler, I don't think he turns it over more than once. I think it's close, but I think South Carolina wins this football game 34-31. Bird Dogs is bringing you the hard count, and we're so freaking grateful for it because Bird Dogs are a couple of things. One, they feel good. Like if you're like me, if it doesn't feel good on your body, if you're wearing some shorts that aren't Bird Dogs and they're not very breathable, you can't really move around, what are we doing here? Like, we totally missed the assignment. We're getting into college football season. Comfort is key. It's good to look good. We'll talk about that in a second, but comfort is key. If it's not comfortable, you don't put it on your body, you don't run into that situation with Bird Dogs keeping you fitted from head to toe. So that's the first part. Second part we need to address, like I was just saying, looking good for a lot of us is, the second part of that equation, but it's still important, man. It's still important, especially as we're starting week 1. A lot of eyeballs. We're in prime time right now. All of us are as we get ready for the season. It's important to start strong. Start strong by looking good. Bird Dogs, man, I'm telling you what, they got all the styles you want, all the colors you want, and they're comfortable. So feel good, look good. Bird Dogs, we appreciate them bringing you the hard count. If you want to go ahead and redeem code JD from birddogs.com at checkout, get you a Hydro Flask-like kind of cup. Going to take care of you, whatever you want in there for game day. Promise you won't regret it. So redeem code JD from birddogs.com to get you one of those and to feel good, look good. Feel good, look good, play good, root on your team good. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.